This is the Third Chance Foundation, episode number 30. We've been at it for 30 straight weeks. I am here with my near and dear friend, Chad King. Chad's going to tell you a little bit about his journey and his recovery from alcohol. I just saw him celebrating 2 years sober yesterday. He has a story similar to mine. So, Third Chance is all about recovery, it's about guardrails. It's if you're at your rock bottom, we are two people who have been where you're at and want to help you get out of that. We believe there are many people that are in holes. Both Chad and I are Christians, so we'll turn in and provide some truth of how our faith and how our spirituality helped us out of this hole. And now that we're out of the hole, we want to go find others that are in the holes that we were in and give them tools, give them tactics, give them inspiration that if we can do it, they can do it too. So, Chad, just congratulations, man, on your 2 years sober. Tell us a little bit of what your feelings were yesterday, what it means to you to be sober, and then just explain a little bit of the journey you've been on because it's not been all about alcohol.
Absolutely. I think that the biggest thing was the emotion of just gratitude yesterday. Gratitude that God spared me, first and foremost, that He gave me a second chance to be able to have a beautiful life. Because Lord knows that some of the decisions and choices that I made during the worst of the worst, I didn't deserve I don't deserve to have the life that I have right now. So just a lot of gratitude. I was proud of myself. You know, it's something that is it's not an easy thing to do in this journey, as you well know. And to be able to say out loud that I have 730 days of sobriety, that's a big deal. And so there was that little bit of something that I've worked very hard at for good reasons, but something I've worked very hard at, and so proud of myself for staying the course and choosing, making the choices that I've made along the way.
Amen. Amen. Well, I want to start with, what all, where do you feel led you to your rock bottom? What was your rock bottom? What were some defining moments in the rock bottom, and what started to bring you out? And I want to share a little bit about your weight loss journey and that this just hasn't been about cutting out alcohol. It's a whole transformation of a man. I've only known you being sober and thin, but I saw the pictures from 2 years ago, and I wouldn't have recognized that man if he came into the room. So just talk a little bit about that rock bottom. What was kind of hitting the rock bottom? How did it help propel you up? And what have been some of the other benefits of getting rid of the alcohol and how did you do it?
So the main thing that it stemmed from was it originated from church hurt. Um, and, you know, we're all human beings.
Mhm.
And even though we're Christians, we're still human and we still mess up, we still make mistakes, and we're imperfect. And where I found myself after several years of serving in ministry full time on church staff, I found myself at a place of where I allowed human beings to hurt me very deeply.
Mhm.
And I made the choice to allow my emotions to get the best of me at that point in time, where I developed a bitterness and a resentfulness of God. And so I've grown up. I've been a Christian since gave my life to Christ. At least gave my life to Christ at the age of 6. I wouldn't say full surrender, which I will speak on in just a moment.
Yeah.
Um, but grew up in church and had been in the ministry for 13 years, had given my life to the ministry to serve, and got to that point of where some circumstances that occurred caused some church hurt from human beings.
Mhm.
And I let that really grasp me and take a hold of me and really dictate the next season of choices and decisions that I made. You know, I lived most of my life being a bigger kid. I was a bit, you know, I was overweight as a kid. I had a few times in my life where I was thinner, but never thin. So weight was always an issue for me growing up. Also, just some of the repercussions that come from that, being bullied, things, the rejection of that. So a lot of things that I just dealt with all culminated in that point back in 2013. Had never drank a drop of alcohol really, other than just a few times in college, just
Mhm.
typical kind of college things, but nothing that was of an addictive nature. Um, and out of that resentfulness and bitterness that developed, alcohol became a resource for me that was a soother and was something that I turned to because one, I was no longer under the microscope of the church body, being on
Right.
staff at the church. So I didn't have any accountability there. And that was really the first time that I truly chosen to drink on a regular basis. Over the next 10 years, from 2013, 14 until 2022, 2023, 9, 10 years, um, it literally took a grip on my life. And it was a slippery slope. One of my things that I would say a lot before I got to the point of recognizing that I had a problem was I'm not hurting anybody. If I'm hurting anybody, I'm hurting myself. I'm not hurting anybody around me. I'm not being a fool. I'm not doing anything, making horrible decisions with it. And so during that course of time, it just continually got worse and worse and worse. My dependence upon it became greater. I found myself through my relationship with my wife, obviously, was not something that she really enjoyed. I was not a nice person the more that I drank, and the heavier that it got, the worst in me showed up and took that out on my wife and my family. Because then my inhibitions were down and a lot of my hurt and my resentments came out at those times, and I couldn't control any of that through those choices. And so it did a lot of damage and caused a lot of hurt. And, she obviously was not a fan of that and hated to see me like that.
Right.
Um, so rock bottom really occurred. Uh, my birthday was November the 3rd, just celebrated my 51st birthday this past Sunday. So 2022, November the 3rd of 2022. Um, I had done an okay job of keeping it at bay from a lot of my friends, my family, seeing me at my worst. Would sit at home at night a lot by myself, drowning my sorrows, drowning my bitterness,
Yeah.
you know, um, using alcohol to soothe a lot of those at night by myself, and drinking myself into a stupor and then going to bed. So celebrated my birthday and literally lost complete control on that day in 2022. And this was an occasion where not only did my family and my kids and my in-laws and but some of my friends literally saw a version of me that they really didn't deserve to see.
Yeah.
And there had been a lot of verbal interaction through the years of my wife encouraging me and getting upset with me to try to curtail that.
Mhm.
She didn't do that this time. She literally took a video of me. I'd never seen myself. And so she took a video. She didn't say a word. She just sent me the video. And I watched the video and immediately complete remorse, complete um, realization that this was a problem.
So the
And
video
so
was the rock bottom.
the video was the rock bottom, me seeing myself through what other people saw. And I made a choice right then and there. I made a choice to do something about it. And so I immediately started calling rehab centers, found one that could work with me, one that I was comfortable with.
How
Um,
soon after you saw, so this happened right around your birthday. Whitney sent you the video, right? How soon from that rock bottom were you into rehab?
so I called the next day. I called on that Sunday. My birthday was on Friday. This party happened on Saturday. Video was sent, and I called on Sunday, the 5th of November.
Hmm.
So
So it was a
November the
quick
5th.
realization, like this is not who I want to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, because when I saw myself, that was literally like that's all it took. I'm a visual person. When
Hmm.
I saw that and I saw that version of me, the decision, really looking back on it, the decision was very easy
Yeah.
at that point for me. And so I called that day. However, with my responsibilities and what I do, obviously in the world that we live in, it
Mhm.
wasn't something that I could just drop everything that I had to do. I had people that I was responsible for. I had employees, I had partners, I had things that I had to do to be able to get my ducks in a row, to be able to be gone for 30 to 45 days. And so I took the next week to do everything that I had to do, talk to the people that I had to talk with, get everything organized and ready. And then so I walked into rehab on Sunday, November the 13th.
Oh, wow. So a week later, right? Got your affairs in order and jumped in. So I want to drill down a little deeper on something because I'm all about tactics and I want to give people tools that might be struggling with what you struggle with. And it's so funny to me hearing you say that, right? Because I've witnessed the other side of you, right? Not that side. Um, and you said something that just that struck me, right? I was not hurting anybody but myself, right? And that's an addict behavior. I believe diction is from the devil. It was definitely when I had my cocaine addiction. That was the devil in me, right? And we tell ourselves these stories to make it be okay. Like what a selfish thing to say when you have the beautiful family you have, the beautiful wife you have. I know your responsibilities. I know your friends group, right? Like what a horrible, selfish thing to say. But these are the things that addicts tell themselves to make it
Mhm.
okay. Right. And it is typically to deal with some sort of trauma. It's a childhood trauma. It's a friend that hurt you. It's a feeling that somebody gave you, right? It's self-medication, especially alcohol, to numb or make that go away. But you said a really profound thing of all the people I've heard on, and maybe I need to give credit to Whitney, but I've never heard the hey, I needed to see myself like that and a video was taken of me. I just think that's an incredible way if you have a loved one that you're struggling with. I've seen this effective. Jeff, who's my partner that's usually on, had another commitment today, but he was an opioid addict, right? And he needed to see if you've seen people on opioid or fentanyl now. A great follow is the Fentanyl Project. That's somebody we really support in Tucson, Arizona. Our friend Blake. He tapes and records like Whitney did of you videos of them on it and then shows them that like because most addicts are visual, right? And emotional people, which most addicts are visual. So I just love that you said that.
Well, you can't deny it. That's the thing is, when you can't see yourself, um, you can make excuses. You can convince yourself and tell, as you say, tell yourself the story, give yourself the narrative of, oh, I'm not that bad. It's not that bad
Right.
because you're not the one sitting back and seeing it from an outside perspective. When you're confronted with that video and you see how bad it is in that moment and you see what you look like, um, you can't deny that. I mean, you can, but internally in my head, I realized how bad it was because in my head I couldn't deny that to myself. Like it was the eye opener of being like, dude, you're bad.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem, and you've got to get a handle on this. So, and when that time occurred, as you said earlier, I'd already started a journey on another part of myself, which was my weight loss the year before in 2021.
Mm.
I've lost 200 pounds over 3 years. And I had lost enough weight to where, like, when I was the size I was in the beginning, I weighed 400 pounds.
Mhm.
And the size that I was in the beginning, it didn't affect me as great. My body didn't have the reaction that it did after I lost a bunch of weight. Well, what I heard from Whitney on a regular basis was, you're still drinking like you're a 400-pound man and your body can't sustain that. Like it reacts differently. So it was like, that's where I honestly think that once I lost the weight, which was a great thing that I had chosen to confront and deal with,
Yeah.
hadn't given up that the alcohol part of it as my coping mechanism for the other stuff that my body literally went in. That's when I started developing the blackout drunks. Like I
Mm.
couldn't remember things. I could, because my body couldn't process the alcohol the same way that it did before. And that's when I truly think I became a full-blown addict with it and
Yeah.
became dependent upon it, was because of what it was doing to my body. And so, that's sitting in that moment. I literally told myself, like, man up, you don't have a choice. You've got to do something about this. And so I did. I put my big boy pants on. I made the phone calls. I did what I had to do. And then I went away for roughly right about 40 days. It ended up being like 37, 38 days that I was gone.
It was. So what was rehab like for you? What was recovery? And then what did you do that when you came out? And what was it, a program? What were the guardrails after you came out? So talk a little bit about rehab itself if you're comfortable, and then what were some of the guardrails or things that you had to do once you came out to stay sober? And then if I've had 5 relapses over 14 years, right? Was there any relapses? And if so, how'd you deal with them?
The interesting thing, and I put this on my social media posts that I did yesterday, 40 to 60% of people relapse
Mhm.
after their first stint in rehab. It obviously gets smaller the more times you go to rehab, typically, because at some point, the more you do it, you learn the things and hopefully you get, not everybody does, but you hopefully learn something each time. I didn't want to relapse. Like, I was scared to death. I feel like I'm a pretty decent man, not as scared of a whole lot, but I was very scared. I was scared to leave my family. I was scared of the problem. I was scared of what it was going to take to conquer the problem, the scared of the unknown. But it was one of those things that where if I also believe in myself enough that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. If I'm going to tackle something, I'm going to always give it everything that I've got to do it right. But I distinctly remember that when I made the choice, I made the call, I set everything up, and I started working through it that next week. But I very specifically, now my relationship with God was poor at best,
Mhm.
just from everything in my background with it, previous 10 to 12 years. And the but I specifically remember praying and asking God, I know you don't have to do this. I don't deserve for you to do this for me, but I'm asking you to please completely take this away from me because I'm not strong enough to do it on my own. And I walked into rehab literally with the mentality of I had a peace that he was going to honor my request. So,
Mhm.
yes, I was very scared walking into rehab, but rehab itself for me was very refreshing. The life that I live is nonstop, as you know. We live similar lives. It's go, 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 go all the time.
Right.
Everything was taken away from me. Every outlet to the outside world, everything that could distract me. So literally that 37, 38 days was nothing but me, God, my counselors, and my fellow guys that were there at rehab with me. And I look back on it now, and even in the moment, like in the moment, it was so refreshing to just completely unplug from the world to where I could focus on what I needed to focus on. And I learned very quickly within the first few days. I missed my family immensely, but I knew why I was there. Like,
Right.
was also my motivation to stick with it and to not shortchange it and to give it everything that I've got. And that's the other thing. I looked at the counselors when I walked in and I said, you have no reason to believe me when I say this, but I'm going to give it everything that I've got. I'm not going to shortchange any of this. And I'll do everything that I'm supposed to do to its fullest. Because one, I don't want to ever have to deal with this again. And two, I don't ever want to come back here.
Mm.
Not that I don't, not that I didn't develop some good relationships there, but I didn't want to come back there. And
Right.
so 2 years later, literally God honored my request. He didn't have to, but he chose to honor my request. And I literally can sit in a room now and I get questions all the time about how do you do that? Again, the world you and I are in, it's around us all the time.
That's right.
And but I knew that. And that was another reason for me praying and asking God for that, because I knew that I couldn't escape that being there around me. And I knew that I had to have something. And the only way that I was going to get that something was through him.
Right.
And so he honored my request to fully remove it from me. I literally sit here today where I can sit in a room and people around me can be drinking, they can have it right in front of me. It does
Yeah.
not to me whatsoever.
Yeah. So what did you have any program that you had to work once you got out of recovery or out of rehab?
Yeah, AA was the big part of I got introduced to AA.
Yeah.
So did that while I was in rehab, continued to do that for the next year while I was out, on and off for the most part. Um, did celebrate recovery in the beginning when I first came out to go hand in hand with the AA, because the big thing for me was I learned about AA, great, phenomenal program, had
Absolutely.
no issues with it whatsoever. For me, there was a missing piece, and the missing piece was my relationship with Jesus, because my relationship with God began to heal in the moment that I walked into rehab. Um, God and I spent a lot of time talking to each other during that 37, 38 days.
Yeah.
A lot of conversation. And looking back on November the 5th of 2022, yes, I gave my life to God at 6 years old, but I didn't truly surrender. November the 5th of 2022 was my day of surrendering, and to give God everything that I had and say, I can't do this on my own. I'm tired of trying to do it on my own. And, um, you know, I knew the things that I was being given, the tools I was being given were phenomenal, and they were great, and they were working. They were what I needed in the moment, but something was still missing. And I was just like, there's got to be something out there. There's somebody they've had to create something that adds in Jesus, because with AA, which there's no issue with it, you get to choose what your higher power
What's your higher
is.
powers? Yeah. Yep.
And so, and very similar with NA,
Yep.
you get to choose that. Well, mine is Jesus. And, but that part is missing as a whole. Like, it's just not focused on him. And I wanted that to be a focal point of my recovery. And so we had been starting to go to a church very soon after coming out of rehab. We got back into church, going consistently. My youngest son, who was 19 at the time, invited us to come to the church that he was going to. We were familiar with it. We'd visited a few times. And so we started attending the Bridge here in Lebanon, Tennessee, where I live. And they had a program called Regeneration through Watermark Church in Dallas, Texas. It's called Regeneration. And Tyson, he tells the story, it is a true story. He basically just walked in and goes, "Hey, you're going to Regen with me, period." He had already made the decision. So I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm going to Regen with you." So I went not knowing anything about it. When I walked in and was introduced to Regen, that filled the gap of the missing piece, because it is an AA based recovery program, but it is also
That's
um, completely focused on God and Jesus and your relationship with God, and God being the only thing that can truly restore you and heal you with what your issue is and what your addiction is.
yeah.
And so, but it goes so much deeper, because alcohol, cocaine for you, alcohol for me, those are symptoms.
Yeah.
Regen literally digs so deep, and it's painful, brother. I thought I'd already dealt with a lot of stuff. No,
Mhm.
it's a 40, each session is, or each year is a 40-week session, and it dives deep, brother. But it's so awesome. And so I did the 40-week session coming out of that. And then now this year, for this year's session, 24-25 session, I'm a leader in it. So I will be involved with it. That has
That's
become
amazing.
my outlet for my recovery, is to stay engaged with that ministry.
So I want to talk about that a second. Like, this is what I want people to know that are at their rock bottom or struggling with alcoholism or drug addiction, like I had, or a pornography addiction or a gambling issue or a sex issue, whatever addictions you have, they really all follow the same patterns, right? It's just a different way of medicating yourself from some past trauma. That's what it comes down to, right? So, what I want to encourage you about is transparency and vulnerability will connect you to where you want to go. So surrendering, like Chad said, surrendering that you have a problem, right? And both Chad and I's higher power is Jesus. We're both Christians. That's going to be ours. We hope that's yours, right? But if it's not, find one that is and surrender to it. And that's the main thing that you need to know is it is a surrender. There is some you are not in control, even if you want to think you are. But that vulnerability and transparency, and once you do that, people hate losing control, especially addicts, right? But I want to tell you that's what brings all the great things in your life. Like I'll tell you, Chad and I just did a deal together. He had an opportunity. He knew I was a real estate investor. We bonded and connected because I gave a story at an event he was at about my addictions, and I just got comfortable talking about it last year. Um, but it brought us together. Now we are friends. Now we're inspired by each other. We celebrate each other. We pray with each other. We point each other. We talk about all the good things and the bad things in life. But there's actual business that came from it too. So not just a friendship, a business relationship, right? And I've done deals for him too. That came from vulnerability and transparency and surrendering, right? We now have this bond that we'll forever have. So people get like concerned about the judgment. I'm telling you, when you're honest, open, and vulnerable, it draws people to you. I was scared of it because I went through my tough times 2008 to 2010, right? It's 2024. I just got comfortable talking about it last year. My attempted suicide, my wife didn't even know about. We've been married 12 years, right? So I just got comfortable being vulnerable and transparent and open about it. So know that surrendering. People get all anxious about those words. It's a beautiful thing. Vulnerability is a beautiful thing. Transparency is a beautiful thing. And you will attract your tribe that not only will help you, but help you evolve. So I wanted to end on this, Chad, and thank you so much for telling your story. It's so inspiring. I want to talk about the faith piece and a few things that helped me. So you already gave the guardrails of like, hey, if you're struggling with addiction, alcoholism, drug addiction, whatever, see the visual of yourself in your action. I think that's just an amazing thing. If you have somebody who's struggling with this, maybe not stick the camera in their face, but if you can, I don't know how Whitney pulled it off, but if you can shoot a video and let them see themselves and the hurt they're causing, I think that's a very powerful thing. But for me, I came out and I need to do four things, and I've watched you do them, so I know you do them too, right? So when I came out of rehab and I started in NA, the first thing for me was my faith. I had to get that right and surrender to a higher power, and I did that, right? Then
Absolutely.
for me, it was fitness. I had to get my fitness and I had to fill the white space in my calendar where I used to party and do drugs and chase women and do all the things that led me to that life. I needed to fill that with things that made me feel good that weren't drugs. That was fitness and working out and being around like-minded people, right? And then that led me to the next thing, which was the fellowship. I needed the community. I needed the NA. I didn't need it for long. I was like you. I got out and I was like, I don't ever want to come back here. And there were stories there that I was worse in, but there was a lot worse than what I had gone through. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad they're open and vulnerable and honest with me because it helped me be like, I don't ever want to go that low as they've had to go. And I don't ever want to have to come back here once I feel like I'm good. So I needed to reestablish my community and change a lot of my community, right? And then what I love what you said this because it's true because I still drink, right? And I've been with you where I've been drinking and you're having as much fun as I am, right? If
Mhm.
not more. So you've learned how to have fun. So just talk a little bit. How did you establish your faith? How did you establish the fitness? How did you establish the fellowship? And how did you learn how to have fun again without alcohol?
So the obviously those first few conversations in rehab where I re-engaged with God, that was really reestablishing my faith. The faith had always been there. It just was very, very, very deep
Yeah, me
with the
too.
hurt, that had occurred. And again, I was trying to punish God for what man had done. And when I got to a point
Say that
of
again.
I was trying to punish God for what man had done.
Mm,
And coming to the realization that God wasn't the one, man made the choices to do to me what happened, not God. And so when I got that straight, it re-engaged and reopened the line of communication with God and I to allow me to release that resentment and bitterness with him. So
Mhm.
therefore it reestablished my relationship with him. So yes, that those first weeks that I was there at rehab, that gave me the time and space alone to be able to rekindle that. My fitness coming out, I'd already lost, at that point in time, I'd lost about 125 pounds of my weight loss. Coming out naturally, stopping drinking. I lost a little bit more while I was in rehab. And anybody that's been to rehab, they know that it is not healthy food at all. I actually lost weight in rehab just by stopping the drinking.
Mhm.
And so when I came out and knew that I'd lost a little bit more, there was this engagement in my mind of where, okay, I have more to do because my doctor had given me a number that I thought was impossible, but it gave me the motivation coming out of rehab, having lost what I did before and then losing a little bit while I was there. It gave me this motivation to, okay, maybe I can lose the rest of this. So coming out of that place, I lost an additional 75 pounds to get me to the 200 on my own.
Because your
And
vision was clear,
that's correct.
right?
But it also involved me working out 3 days a week. So I hired a personal trainer who happened to be my son, which allowed mine and his relationship to blossom and take off. That wasn't there before. But I put the work in to be able to be healthy because if I was going to be healthy mentally, I was going to be healthy spiritually. I also wanted to be healthy physically. And so I had to do the things necessary to be well-rounded in all three areas. And so that was a commitment. And, we're a year and a half, almost 2 years later on that as well. So, still do it. In fact, when we finish this podcast up, I will go meet Tyson at 4 o'clock for me to go for my training session.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, the fellowship part, um, yes, it allowed me an open door to go back to some old friendships because as we both know, going through rehab, you get to the amends stage. And I had to make a lot of amends with people. So that opened the door for me to rekindle some relationships there that brought more fellowship into me. I wasn't mistrusting any longer because I had been so lost in that for so long that I didn't trust anybody, didn't want to be around anyone, didn't want those relationships. But now I was actually excited about rekindling, but I had to get through the nervousness and the anxiousness of saying I'm sorry. The love that I received from people when I made my amends was astounding, like just totally mind blowing to me. And the people, the way they loved on me. One thing I've learned since then, even in the midst of doing that, what you said earlier about the vulnerability and the transparency, even like yesterday, I personally feel at times I don't want to come across that I'm boasting and bragging about what I've experienced. My wife looked at me and she said, "Are you going to post today and tell?" And I said, "No." She goes, "You should."
Mhm.
I did. I humbled myself and didn't want it to come across boastful or brag, as a braggart. Out of those posts that I did on social media yesterday, literally I had three people reach out to me wanting to sit down and talk to me about their own addiction. That's what it's about.
Mhm.
So fellowship is not only the people that you surround yourself that give you that accountability, or at least what I've learned, the people that provide the accountability for me. The more you tell your story, when you put your story out there, you're naturally giving your permission for people to hold you accountable because now they know your story. Now they know
Right.
where you started, where you've come from, where you are. I want that accountability. I want to be under that microscope because that just gives me an extra layer to know that I will never go back to where I was before. I want the eyes on me, believe it or not, watching what I'm doing because if I make a bad choice, I've got hundreds of people now that will go, don't do that. And they'll hold me accountable if I'm weak, and they'll hold me up if I'm weak. And the last one with the fun, I had to apologize as a part of my amends to my wife because I felt like that when I met her, she got the bait and switch. And she never truly knew the real Chad King. And over the last year, I've looked at her and said, baby, I'm sorry that I deprived you of this man for so long, but this is who I really am. This is the real me. It's the whole, if we channeled our buddy Ben with the real Slim Shady, please stand up. This is who I am. And, you know, to know I'm all about fun. And I literally wake up every day happy and giddy. I mean, I'm human. I have rough days. I have rough moments, rough periods, but I get through them so much easier now because I know what I need to be grateful for because I honestly believed in my heart, Chad. There was a time where I believed I would never see the age of 50 years old. I thought I would be dead.
Mm.
And I got past
Probably would
that
have been.
yeah, I got past that in 2023. Got to celebrate 51 in 2024. So, now I have fun. I love life. I love the people that I live it with. I love the people that I get to surround myself with. I want to go out. I want to engage. I want to be involved. Yeah, I get tired, but man, I want to live life to the fullest. So, having the fun and enjoying my life. And I find myself at a place where we're on the verge of being empty nesters, Whitney and I are. And man, I feel like it's like we're starting to date all over again because we get to go out and do things we've never gotten to do in raising our five kids. Past that, they're all adults except for one, and it's an amazing life that I'm privileged to wake up every day and get to lead, and just to even sit back now and watch the things that God's continuing to do, the things He's opening up for me, the doors that are getting opened through my story, through ministry now, through what I do every single day, the conversations I get to be a part of. It's just absolutely mind blowing, and I'm grateful for every moment of it.
Well, you helped me with a fifth F for recovery, and it's forgiveness, right? I know you forgave, and when you forgave, you could humble yourself and come to the Lord and ask for help. And I think that's the new first F is forgiveness. Because he's just such a good God that forgives us and does not judge for what we've been through when we ask for his help, because I saw it firsthand. It literally saved my life. It sounds like it saved yours. And what an incredible story. I'm just so proud of you. Number one, I'm honored to be your friend. I'm so grateful that you're vulnerable and transparent with your story so you can go help others, right? And I love that you're doing that through your program that you found. I'm honored that you came on my platform today. I will put some of the comments below. I won't share his personal cell phone, but if you want to DM me, I'm sure Chad would be happy to talk to you if you're struggling with this. And I want to end on that. If you know anyone who is struggling with any addiction, we would rather take a phone call at 2 a.m. than be at someone's funeral. We believe we're the best teachers because there's no one better to teach them how to get out of it than someone that's done it themselves. We've been at those low points, we've been at those rock bottoms. I remember mine vividly, and now I just want to help people that are at that point because I remember the pain and suffering that I felt during that time, and it's not that far away, and I could always go back to it if I didn't keep these guardrails and people like Chad in my life. So, no, we're here to help. If it's something I can't help with, or Chad can't help with, or my friend Jeff can't help with, we have resources that can. We've got so many people. I think we're now at 18 people to recovery. We've had an amazing amount of people. Like Chad, you had 3 people reached out. I've had 4 people that I've talked to tell me they didn't kill themselves because of our conversation and my transparency about my own attempt on my life. So I just think you're an incredible story, and it's just amazing what you've done with the weight loss and the recovery. And I know it's all to honor yourself first. You should be proud of yourself, your family, but most importantly, our Lord and Savior. You're just a shining example of what He can do in your life, and I'm proud to call you my friend.
Thank you, buddy. And thank you for doing this, man. I mean, applaud you for taking the step to do this because I know how busy you are and to take that time to do this. You're living your truth as well. So thank you very much for creating a platform where we can do this.
Awesome. Thanks again, my man.